Good morning and welcome to another edition of Sunday Maritime Reads. My name is Nina Ferry-Montanil and I am the reference librarian here in Oak Bluffs. We're doing these Sunday reads every Sunday in September to celebrate our 5th annual Maritime Month in honor of Gordon Goodwin. This morning I'm going to be connecting two books, one from our Maritime collection and the other one from our Martha's Vineyard collection that talks about a similar topic. So I'll be reading from Seaglass, Rare and Wonderful from C.S. Lambert, photographed by Tina Lamb. This book in our Maritime collection follows a sea glasser as she discovers how her collections fit into history around the world. So it's full of like really quirky anecdotes about history, and it's a nice way to show off her collection. In the preface, she says, considering the ocean's 140 million square miles, Seaglass is infinitesimally small, yet these shards reveal what we have in common with the rest of the world. Sea glassers who examine color, shapes, and design are oceanside archaeologists. They might place shards in historical context, what they were, and what was going on at the time the original object was created. With sea glass, the ocean often blurs the differences between history and fiction, past and present. The fragment of a candy container found in Maine represents a car designated for World War II combat in Europe. An antique French pottery shard found in Pennsylvania recalls Marie Antoinette's favorite makeup. A red shard found in Puerto Rico evokes a 10th century Persian glass with magical powers. Artists and artisans could not possibly have imagined that the fragments of their work would connect decades of strangers, or that the process of decay might fascinate beachcombers in the future. One thing sea glassers have in common is that they find and preserve these rare and wonderful shards from the past before they slip away and disappear forever. So throughout the book, there are these colorful pictures from her collection. I know my 4-year-old son, Oliver, loves going to the beach to find sea glass. And one of his favorite places to go is a little beach here called Marble Beach. And it's on West Chop, and the author actually has a page of marbles that she has found. She says, over time, salt water draws out soda and lime from the glass, and it gives it a pocked and opaque surface. This shard looks like a frozen planet with swirls of white clouds. It was found in Seaham, England, and measures about 1.5 inches in diameter. Another interesting fact the author shares with us, impossibly orange. The rarest color of sea glass is orange. It's a transparent orange, not carnival glass with its shiny iridescent surface, not milk glass which is opaque, not amberina with shades of red merging with amber. The key ingredient for transparent orange glass is cadmium, a heavy metal byproduct of zinc mining, discovered in 1817. According to the report, Trends in the Usage of Cadmium by the National Research Council's Committee on Technical Aspects of Critical and Strategic Materials, 1 ton of zinc produces 6.5 pounds of cadmium. No doubt because of the scarcity and cost, few orange-colored glass items were made. And then she has quirky tales. This one is called Old Mr. Boston, and this particular piece of sea glass was found near Galveston, Texas. When Old Mr. Boston Distillery opened in 1933, the post-prohibition party had already begun. Rum, bourbon, gin, vodka, and liqueurs sold well, due in part to the fictitious Mr. Boston, who headed the company's advertising campaign. In 1935, the distillery published Old Mr. Boston's Official Bartender's Guide, which contained a few abbreviated history lessons on Plymouth Rock, Paul Revere, and the Boston Tea Party, as a bartending guide should. The little book has sold more than 11 million copies. In 2015, Punch magazine proclaimed that Old Mr. Boston conveyed authority, quality, and heritage, never mind that he was sorely lacking in all three. With top hat and mutton chops, he was the sort of human Mr. Peanut minus the monocle. So I highly recommend checking this book out if you need a light read or something to accompany your walks on the beach. Maybe you're entertaining guests and you want to show them a little bit more about the world of Seaglass. And that book actually complements a local book called The Magic Seaglass of West Chop. This book is really interesting. It was written by Constance Fuller Sanborn and can be found in our Martha's Vineyard collection. I'm going to read you a little bit about the author and the illustrator. The first half of this book is actually written in a way that it almost looks like a children's book. There's illustrations throughout, but the information in the book is well researched and everything is taken from the Gazette or Intelligenzers or local historians. So the author lives in Mink Meadows on Martha's Vineyard year-round with her husband, Robert. She has 3 children and 6 grandchildren. This is her first book. The artist, Sally Ward, has 3 children and 1 grandchild, and she lives with her husband, Ken, and son, John, year-round deep in the Tajmu woods, where she paints and does freelance drawing. Her first book with Cynthia Wayman, Some Are People, Some Are Not, is a collection of Martha's Vineyard cartoons. And we also have that book in our collection, just for another example of this illustrator here and how cute her cartoon pictures are. So this book is an intimate revelation through eyewitness accounts of life as it was in the early days of the New England summer colony on the island of Martha's Vineyard. And she kind of presents a tour of the island. And essentially the book is dedicated to her grandmother who lived on East Chop. Now the whole reason that this book connects to the Seaglass book, besides the title, is as you're going through that children-esque story in the beginning, her grandmother has found a piece of sea glass. By this time, these stories had brought the little group to the beach, a little beyond the West Chop Big Pier. It was then that something amazing took place. Granny spotted in the sand a piece of sea glass shimmering like a jewel, a deep, glowing ruby red. She picked it up and held it so all the children could see it. It was unquestionably like no other sea glass they had ever seen. "This must be magical," proclaimed Grammy. "Everyone sit down around me on the sand and close your eyes. I will rub this sea glass with respect and faith and gratitude, and we will see what it can do." They were very excited, of course, but they all sat there obediently with their eyes squeezed shut, even Ariella. In what seemed like no time at all, things began to happen. First, they felt a warm, soft breeze on their faces and smelled wild roses and honeysuckle, totally strange for May. Then faintly at first, they heard voices. There were too many voices, both old and young, singing in a place they knew had been absolutely empty when they had started closing their eyes. The voices, louder now, were singing, "Dear Lord and Father of mankind, forgive our foolish ways." "Aha," said Granny, "this is magic for certain." "Now, children," she continued, "let's remember that whatever we experience next, that which is magical is not always logical." Then the singing voices faded away and grew silent, and Granny felt that moment was now to open their eyes. On the next page is where she switches the book, and it's full of old photographs from the vineyard. many of them taking place in Oak Bluffs. And it becomes less of a narrative story with illustrations and more of a regular nonfiction history tale. So it's a great way to kind of explore the history of Oak Bluffs and the island. More specifically, we have things like the Summer Institute in the Highlands and the Highland House, horse trolley in Ocean Park. She has the trains between Oak Bluffs and Eggertown. There's just so much information here. But I really liked it, how she went about it in a different way. That even in this well-researched book, she mentioned a little bit of fun and the magic of sea glass. Until next week, enjoy your time